Hello, hello, friends. You are listening to the We Rise Together podcast. This is a weekly podcast where 5 women have come together to help you and encourage you to living the best life that you could possibly live. We base all of our life on certain areas, and that's what this podcast is about. We hold each other up. We encourage ourselves and others in all the areas of life that need to be loved and taken care of. Areas like your finances and your faith, your family and your friends. We don't leave out fun, and we definitely don't leave out what we do for a living. So I hope you will join us every single week right here on this podcast. If you want to see us live, you can find us on YouTube. If you want to get to know us better and be a part of our community, please go over to Facebook. You can find the link in the description of this video. We have a Facebook group called We Rise Together, and we would love to have you join us in that group. So join us every single week right here. And don't forget, life is better when we rise together. Friends, welcome back to We Rise Together podcast. Miss Greta, Kari, Joanne, and I am Kori. We are so glad that you were able to join us today. Today we're going to talk about inflammation. It is something that so many people battle, and it is probably one of the most difficult things to get rid of, honestly, once you get it. And it's everywhere. I mean, it's your whole entire body, and there's a lot of underlying reasons for inflammation and causes. And I know that I recently went to a doctor and we were discussing inflammation. And, he asked me, he's a holistic doctor, and he asked me why I don't go to other doctors, right? And I told him because they don't treat the cause. They don't treat the root cause, they treat the symptom. And I want to know what the cause is. So he was very satisfied with that. And I'm learning a lot. So I kind of wanted to cover this to see what these other ladies thought. And they also thought it was a really good idea. So what'd you think?
I think it's a great idea. I think, like you said, it's something that everyone has. Honestly, I have not met a person that doesn't have some sort of inflammation, even if they're super healthy, clean, fitness oriented. There's always some sort of inflammation in our bodies. And once we start to build up that inflammation, and it's kind of like a symptom of stuff, right? Because other things are building up in our bodies that we start to feel it in other parts of our bodies by, presenting it as inflammation, right? That's what it is. It's your body's way to protect whatever is going on. It's like
it's a response.
It's a response. Yeah. But it's like a protective bubble. It's trying to protect your organs and your other areas, right? So it doesn't, my computer's dying. Hold on a second.
I in the We Rise Together Facebook group, there's actually a whole section that I did in there on inflammation. So yeah, if you guys want to jump in after you listen to this podcast to the Facebook group, there's some really good stuff in there. But yeah, that's what it is, Greta. It's a protective response to for our body to protect our organs and our tissues and all of that. And for some reason, it seems to really concentrate a lot on joints and muscles, right? So that's where we have rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and fibromyalgia and all of these autoimmune responses. And just I want to make this really clear to everybody listening. None of us are doctors, so don't take what we're saying as gospel. This is just our interesting points of view. Always go seek, your help from your medical doctor. But this is our experience and our knowledge of inflammation. So,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I've been learning a lot about it just in the last week. I was telling Kori a little bit about it too. And not that I didn't know about inflammation, I just didn't know. I thought I was taking care of my body by taking the right supplements, by, you know, doing some exercise, by eating healthy. But there is something that we can't see, we can't feel it, something in my body that I knew almost like intuitively that there's something that's still there that's holding on to, you know, to whatever toxins I may have, and it's causing inflammation. And it would pop up in weird ways where I would all of a sudden start to have, and the reason that that happened was because I was starting to detox my body off of heavy metals. And I haven't done that before. And things like headaches and migraines started to pop up. The girls have seen me in person. They know that there was a lot of inflammation in my face and in my fingers, my joints. The workout recovery was longer. You know, those kinds of things. I wasn't absorbing even water the way I should be absorbing. So there were little factors that really we don't pay attention to. We just think, oh, I just have a headache, I'll just take a pill, right? We're not really thinking about, well, what's going on? Why am I starting to get headaches, right? I was headache free for a very long time. And those that know me know that I used to suffer with migraines. I used to get them once or twice a week. I've had maybe 3 this year alone, which is a miracle in itself. And I think they were caused by me trying to technically detox my body off of heavy metals. And now whatever is going on, my body's going into shock, trying to get rid of this. So of course things will pop up. But if I were to ignore it, I would have stopped everything and, you know, taken a anti-inflammatory and gone on with my day and continued on with my life the way I have up until now, without realizing that there's something else going on, right? And I think that's what people miss when we talk about inflammation. They're like, well, yeah, well, I have this and I have that and I take this and that for it. Well, but there's a reason, right? There's a reason your body is trying to protect you from something.
And it's not because you have a Tylenol deficiency.
Right? It's not. It's the last thing.
Right.
And that's the thing. We make our bodies dependent on these quick fixes, which let me tell you, I was dependent on them too for many, many years since I was a very young kid. It was a quick fix. What did it do for me for the last 27 years? Let's say nothing. It actually made my body even worse and made the responses a lot worse. You know, the fact that I do have access to amazing supplements. And when I did get those headaches and migraines, they were nipped in the butt really quickly and I wasn't suffering. Yes, I did get a migraine, but I wasn't relying on some harsh drugs or, you know, things that I used to take because I didn't see any other way out.
Right.
But yes, we're all fighting with inflammation. And
I remember years ago when my son was still playing hockey and he ended up with a shoulder injury. And I remember his coach saying to me, please do not give him ibuprofen or Tylenol. You want, and that kind of fits with what you said, that you want that inflammation response from the body because that's what's going to help heal the shoulder. And that was kind of my first thinking about inflammation. I mean, that's quite a few years ago now. I'm thinking, okay, well, that kind of makes sense. It's the same as a fever. A fever is your body's response to try to fight the virus or the bacteria. And inflammation is the same way. But I think in what happens now is we continually put things into our bodies that make that inflammation response continual. So it's not as it should be with an injury. It's like all the time. And that is you know what, some of the stuff we don't have a lot of control over. It's, you know, like Greta said earlier, it's in our water, it's really in the air, it's everywhere. Processed foods are probably one of the worst culprits, you know. So there's a lot that we can do, and there's some things that we can't, but we need to accommodate the body to be able to make up for that. So
the nice thing is that our bodies are designed in the most wonderful design.
right.
And once we really start listening to what our body is saying and really intuitively know that there's something going on and I need to address this, our bodies will learn to naturally cleanse and, you know, get rid of things that we don't need, right?
Yeah.
But if we're continuously ignoring the root cause and just taking, you know, putting a band-aid on it, then our body just kind of gets lazy and it just goes, well, she doesn't care, then I don't care either. I'll just start falling apart, right?
Right.
So
and yes, and just to kind of feed off of that or add to that, when we do put a substance in our bodies at one time were, I mean, and this is my interesting point of view, they were created to be able to handle small amounts of toxins. The problem is it's not just a small amount of toxins anymore, it's large amounts of toxins. So our body's response to that doubles up on it. So yeah, we were created to, here's an example, you know what? I've had somebody say to me, oh, well, that product has sucralose in it. And sucralose isn't wonderful in large quantities, but a little bit of it every day, our body can absolutely handle that and get rid of it. It's the same as, you know, if you only wore perfume once a month rather than every day, once a month, the body would be able to detox that amount of endocrine disruptors and you'd probably be okay. But wearing perfume day after day after day will cause an inflammation response within your body, which affects your endocrine system.
Yeah, it's the little things that are not always necessary. We think they're necessary, but they're not always necessary. We don't have to do it. I mean, I've been trying to eat clean. And honestly, I just wanted something sweet. And I'm not going to punish myself for, you know, having a piece of chocolate or, you know, a handful of craisins and whatever, right? Like, I didn't eat a cake, but I feel now I don't crave that. It's not what I want.
Right.
I'm satisfied with a little bit of, you know, dried fruit. It's not good for you in big quantities, but it's good for you if you have it once in a while, right? And a piece of chocolate. And I was totally okay with that. So, you know, my body is able to process that because it's not inundated with it every single day, right? So just same goes for food, same goes for, you know, using toxins in your home, same goes for everything else. It all really transfers over into our bodies, and that's what inflammation is, right? Like, I mean, like you said, our shoulder injury, you know, you have an injury because you physically got that injury. So inflammation in that moment is a good thing, right? Because it actually protects that area and it needs to work on it. But when we don't see it and we get inflammation, we've got to think about it. Okay, there's an injury somewhere in my body that my body is trying to protect.
And I mean, even with people who do get injuries, like say you do get a shoulder injury, I mean, one of the first recommendations from a doctor would be inflammatory, you know, medications to take away the inflammation, when it really, that's probably the last thing you should do. So what it does is it suppresses it then, and it continues on and on and on. And pretty soon that's just a chronic inflammation. It's there all the time because your body's saying, hey, this is what's going on, and you're giving it ibuprofen, right? So it's a boom, 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 boom thing. So there is different types of inflammation, but I think Greta, what you're more talking about is the inflammation that so many of us have now just from living life,
Yeah.
right? Fast foods, processed foods. There's actually a ton of them. You guys help out here. There's just so many things that cause inflammation in the body. You know what? Red meat has gotten a really bad response for that for years and decades. And now we're finding out that red meat actually doesn't cause inflammation in the body. Seed oils do.
Yeah.
Right? Canola oil, sunflower oil,
When
safflower oil.
That actually
cottonseed oil.
reminds me, because I actually, since, it's probably been like 2 or 3 months that I have completely gotten rid of seed oils in
It's a
my
big
diet.
deal.
And I've noticed a huge
Huge.
difference in even how my digestive system works.
Yeah.
And everything else. So I kind of, I went all in. So don't do that. Now I can't back out. I gotta go through it all. But I think if you do one thing at a time, right? Get rid
Yeah,
of,
like an onion layer, right? Like an
Yeah.
onion layer at a time.
don't do what I do, where I just jumped in with at first, technically, and now I have to fight it all. I know in the end it will be a good thing, but you don't have to suffer through it all that way, right? Just do one thing at a time. But seed oils, if you can get rid of seed oils out of your diet completely, you will see a huge difference.
I just listened to that doctor and I can't remember his name. I'll look at it while we're chatting. But anyway, he listed 5 foods that he felt it wasn't necessarily about inflammation, just 5 foods to take out of your diet. And seed oils were one of them.
Yeah.
Pasteurized dairy was another one. And he had a great ending to that, to do raw dairy. And like I said, in Canada, we can't find raw dairy because you'll get some fine $10,000 for it. But if you could eat raw dairy, it actually helps with inflammation, but pasteurized dairy causes inflammation. So, they flipped a lot of these things on us, right? Genetically modified food, horrible. And, that could be a whole podcast in itself, which maybe we think about doing a podcast on genetically modified food because, right? What are some other things? There's a lot of things that cause inflammation.
White sugar is a horrible one.
Processed sugars, right? Dried fruit was great. Just fruit in general, right? To get your sugars from. Raw organic honey cannot be pasteurized honey because then it's just basically like corn syrup. Yeah, just try to keep it natural. If your body doesn't, if you read something and you don't know what that word is, your body's probably not going to know what it is either. That's a really good way when you're looking at ingredient things. Not always, but the other thing that he mentioned was fake sugars. Right?
Well, and it's a trend right now, right? Because people are coming out.
Stevia was one of them. Stevia is not our friend, right? Stevia, if you could take stevia and eat the leaf, I don't think it'd be that bad, but to get that sweetener from that leaf, stevia is very processed. And I think that's where the problem comes in, right? Is the processed stevia. But I mean, there's other natural sweeteners that are better choices than that. The other thing too, is you have to take into context, if you're only, using stevia and it amounts to, the size of a pinhead every day, that's probably not very detrimental to your body. But if you're using, half a teaspoon of stevia in every cup of tea you drink, and you drink 3 or 4 cups of tea a day, that's a big deal, right? So it's how you look at it. It's quantity too. So
yeah, so it's not like, you can never have it. It's just, it has to be in moderation, right? And like we said, our body knows how to get rid of the toxins if we allow it to. So even if we take in a little bit of, sugar or whatever else, it will know what to do with it. But if we're continuously adding those things to our diets every single day, eventually our body just doesn't, right? Joe, you've been doing a lot of inflammation or anti-inflammatory things for your body too, hey?
Well, I was gonna say, one of the things I've learned in my almost 35-year journey with it is, and I did do the whole lots of Tylenol. I was advised to take more Tylenol than is the limit now. You know how they've really come down and said you only need, I think it's 3 grams of Tylenol a day is the absolute limit. Well, I was taking more of that every single day. And I was taking another anti-inflammatory, and I was taking an NSAID and, right? And sometimes I got a little bit of relief, other times I got more relief. But then I started looking into it because at the time I was like, yeah, my doctor knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And the more I looked into it, the more I'm like, no. So I started looking for other modalities, and some worked, some didn't. If you ever want to find out what I tried, just reach out to me and we can talk. But one of the things that worked for me when I found my amazing natural path was food sensitivities. And now I've figured out even more so that a lot of it is the additives, the preservatives, the herbicides, all the sides that end up on it. It's not necessarily that food, but when I ate that food, it caused an inflammatory reaction. So we've worked through that years of work, but I've worked through it mostly. I mean, I am not perfect by any means. I still have issues. I still have chocolate, and probably more chocolate than I should, but I know, and I know what to watch for. If something comes up, then I know I need to, either go back to my natural path, find out what it is. The interesting thing too is a lot of the reactions can have emotions attached to them. So, and it's funny how things from the past, or just what you think are little things going on in your life, can cause your body to react. So, and it's your body's way of saying, hey, you got a stress going on, you need to deal with it. But Greta mentioned this earlier. Our bodies were built to be perfect, to run perfectly with no issues. And something that over my journey that I've changed my mindset on is it's not the supplements and the remedies that we take that are making me better. I don't want to say the 4-letter C word, because we're not doctors, we don't prescribe, we don't cure, we don't anything else, right? But when we give our bodies the tools, the good tools, it knows what to do with them, and it can work like this, right? So don't think about you're taking vitamin D to get rid of your headache. You're giving your body vitamin D so it can do the work. It's your body that does the work to get better. And so just keep looking to get the good tools, good supplements, good protein powders, clean water, and start reducing the things that do cause an inflammatory response. Like Greta said, it's not necessarily the best thing to do it all at once, but especially on your own. Greta I'll just tell you that she has tons and tons of knowledge and experience, so she kind of knew what she was getting herself into. But yeah, it's kind of neat when you start taking a supplement, going, okay, I'm giving this to my body so my body can do what it needs to do. It works different, it feels different, and it seems to work better, because the expectation isn't there that you're going to take one supplement one time. That's another thing. You don't take one thing one time and poof, it's all gone.
Well, and I think that's just the perception of today's society is we take something, we expect a response, almost an immediate response to that, right? So a lot of people will say, well, I take supplements and they don't work for me. It's not the actual, like you said, Joe, it's not the supplement that's supposed to work for you. It's your body utilizing the supplement in how it needs to, it needs to heal itself first, right? Which means you have to get rid of a lot of stuff out of your body.
Well, and not only that, it's the damage has built up for
Right?
weeks and months and years
I was gonna
and
say
decades sometimes, right?
Decades.
And then taking or even if it's a really good multivitamin for a month is a good start, but you may or may not see results. Yes, some people see a result in sometimes, I mean, we've heard testimonies of 3 days and they notice a difference, but other people don't notice a difference. But if you know and trust the supplement that you're taking, then you will know that it's doing you good, and that you may not see what it's doing because it's having to layer upon layer upon layer. Like Kari said, it's like an onion, layer upon layer. And sometimes those layers are sweet. Other times those layers are rotten, and you will feel like a rotten onion, like you literally will. But
I was telling Kori right before this podcast how I was feeling when I started my detox. It was not pretty.
Yeah, but it's a good sign that, like, if you do notice a difference and you do kind of feel, and of course, if it goes on for too long and you're worried about it, please go see your medical practitioner, whoever that may be. But it is possible you're detoxing or it's shedding something, but there are layers that are just ugly, and don't wait. That's the only thing I can say to everybody.
The longer you wait, the longer it takes to get rid of the inflammation. But I think I just really believe that inflammation is probably one of the leading contributors to people feeling like crap nowadays, and having these underlying conditions. It's something that I don't think the medical field acknowledges. They suppress it instead of embracing it and helping people address the inflammation and get rid of it. So, the four of us are pretty lucky because we're with a company that has some pretty incredible products for inflammation. So I know since starting with Q Sciences, my inflammation is half of what it used to be, literally half of what it used to be. So, Kori, how's your shoulder with that direct inflammation? Is it any better?
Yes and no. It's better to a point, but because of my day job, it's not going to get better. I'm starting to do some new techniques that I've learned recently. So I recently went to an Ayurvedic doctor, and he's a world-renowned doctor. People from all over the world go to him. His name's Dr. Sue House. He wrote the book called The Hot Belly Diet. And he's put me on the hot belly diet. So I am flour and dairy free now. And I have to do some, a certain protocol and take some certain herbs and things like that, and do a fatty liver detox, because one thing that I learned, he's actually going to teach me how to do it, which is pretty awesome. He's going to teach me how to do Ayurvedic medicine. But one thing that I learned is that women that have had babies, it doesn't matter if you're a twin. Like, I don't care if you're 120 pounds and you're a fitness guru, woohoo. It don't matter. Women that have had babies more than likely will have a fatty liver, because our bodies hold on to that for nutrients in our filtration system. And that can itself cause a lot of inflammation within our bodies. And I learned that from him, and I never knew that. I thought fatty liver was like, people that ate a lot of junk food and you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have any idea.
Yeah, the guy that's eating Big Macs every day.
Exactly. Or drinks a lot, or and I don't drink, and I eat fairly well. I mean, I don't eat 100%. I used to eat a lot of dairy because I love cheese, right? So, but he taught me this, and it's a lot easier to really want to change some of those habits in your life and the way that you think about food when you actually know what it does to your body. And so, he told me, he's like, you've had 4 kids. He's like, what makes you think that your body hasn't held on to some of that stuff from having 4 kids? And I never thought about it that way. I'm like, I haven't had a kid in 17 years.
Mhm.
Like, I never thought about that, but he's like, you have held on to all of this, as even energetically, emotionally, physically, like we hold on to this stuff, and our emotions are so tied into inflammation. He told me that I would have massive breakdowns. He's like, when we go through this liver cleanse, and when you start this program, he's like, you're going to feel better physically, but you're going to have some serious emotional like peaks and valleys because your body's releasing all this stuff, right? And so for me, and this is just my body, because Ayurvedic medicine is tailored to who you are, specifically who you are in your doshas, right? So we all have 3 doshas, but it's specifically tailored to you. And for me, my joints and ligaments and what's causing the inflammation in my body, what it's doing to me is it's drying me out, completely drying me out. And
So what
whether
dosha are you? What's your primary dosha?
my primary is the one that starts with a P.
Oh,
And Pita Veda.
Pita Veda. Yeah, I'm
Veda.
Kapha.
Yeah, you're a Kapha. So I'm Pita Veda. And what he said is that it's like taking a strip of leather like this and putting it out in the sun and just letting it sit there and bake. That's what is happening to my joints and ligaments because of the inflammation and because of the things that I'm putting in my body, and because of different, maybe parasites, or like Greta said, like, heavy metals, whatever the case may be. He's teaching me that not everything goes for everyone. And for me personally, I can't go to the gym anymore. He told me to knock it off. He said, you knock that right off right now. And 90% of the doctors out there are going to tell you that you need to exercise, right? Well, he's not telling me that I don't need to exercise, but because of what's happening in my body and the inflammation and what it's causing for me, I have to sweat. I have to sweat profusely without jarring my ligaments and my tendons and cracking them and hurting them. And that's why I'm having these problems in my shoulders, because I lift heavy money every day. Yeah. I am on my feet 10 hours a day. I am constantly walking on concrete. I'm constantly moving. And he said that is exercise. You're lifting a lot of weight and you can't handle it because your body is saying, no, I don't want you to do this anymore. And it's causing the inflammation in my joints and my ligaments. So for me, I started the gym with Allie thinking, okay, we're gonna do this. I'll just be careful, right? I'll just be really careful. He's like, no, you need to do hot yoga 3 times a week and you need to sit in a sauna.
Right. I was going to say, Kori, just to add to that quickly, I've been looking into hormones because that's what I'm going through right now. I've got like a hormonal mess going on. And the one thing is that when we become in menopause age or even perimenopause, excruciating exercise, like really high stress, running, jogging, all of those kinds of things can actually hinder our hormones, cause them to be off balance, and put us into adrenaline fatigue because it actually, our body's discrete cortisol.
Yep. My body, I am out of my adrenal glands. He said, yours are shot. He literally said, you are done. Your body says no.
Yeah.
And I've been feeling that for a while. I mean, and so it's amazing to think about how the human body works. Not everybody is the same, and not everything works the same way for everyone. And so finding what works for you is really, really important, because what works for me might not work for Greta. Greta works out at the gym and it works for her. If I go to the gym, I could literally end up in a hospital. Like, I could literally hurt myself. And so I think that it's really important that we really look into what's causing the inflammation for ourselves.
Well, and you mentioned not everything is the same for everybody. Not every type of practitioner is the same. So do a little bit of research on some of the ones that are out there. And I mean, yes, talk to your medical doctor if that's your choice. But Kori went to an Ayurvedic doctor. I've got a naturopath. I was lucky enough I was able to spend some time with a functional medicine doctor who actually found what triggered my autoimmune was a bacteria that I actually could have been born with. My mom could have possibly passed it to me. There's no way of knowing where I got it from.
Right.
But I mean, so we dealt with it. So because they looked for the root cause rather than just saying, okay, let's make you not hurt. And where the inflammation kept coming. There's naturopaths, there's osteopaths, there's
so many different things.
so many,
and I think when you
different
do
ones.
research that, what feels light to you, what resonates with you, if it gives you a light feeling when you go, oh, I'm going to see an Ayurvedic doctor, then that's where you go, right?
And look up a definition of what it means to be an Ayurvedic doctor or an osteopath. Look to see what they do. Look to see what a chiropractor does. Look, and you'll know, because like Kari says, you'll feel light, or you'll get excited going, yeah,
that's what I want to see.
That's the one.
You will. If you open up to the idea of it, your intuition, your higher consciousness will tell you if that's for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I had a comment from someone that I was chatting with. This was a while back. And one of the comments was, well, I don't want to go to an alternative doctor or practitioner because, I'm worried, what if they don't know what they're doing? And I said, well, what has your doctor done for you? And she couldn't answer. Right? Other than prescriptions, she couldn't answer. I'm not saying all doctors are like that.
No.
I'm just saying there's options. I know some amazing doctors, right? I know they're very skilled and very good at what they do, but there's options, and it's always good to go.
Times and places. Like when my husband was in a motorcycle accident, I didn't last summer. I'm glad that they didn't take him to my naturopath.
Right. Like, I mean, there's a time and place.
To a surgeon or whatever he needed, but absolutely. So we have so many options, and a lot of times, and I don't know where you are, Kori, your guys' medical system is quite a bit different than ours, but I mean, Greta and I can vouch for Alberta. Our medical system is broken here. So there's a lot of people that are going to their medical doctors and they're just handing a prescription. They're not telling them what's really wrong with them. You have to lose.
That's what happened to me when I went for my shoulder.
Yeah, that's
exactly what happened to me. They're like, here, I think that this is what you need. Put steroids in your arm. And I'm like, this is not the cause. And this is just my experience. And I personally, if I was in a car accident and I broke my arm, I would go and get my arm fixed at a hospital. But if I am suffering from inflammation, my experience is that the root cause will not be determined. I will get a Band-Aid. And I do not want a Band-Aid, because a Band-Aid will not help my body heal itself. And for me, it's important to know why I'm feeling this way, why my arm's doing this. I mean, he was so confident, you guys, that within 30 days, Within 30 days, he said, that will be, I just had my first appointment. Okay. He's so confident that in 30 days, I will no longer have any of these issues and I will be down 30 pounds. So we will see. We will see. And I'm following his suggestions.
Well, you got me thinking, Kori, because I have been trying to figure out, different options for me, because where I live, of course, I don't have anywhere I go, I'm going to have to drive, significant amount of time to get there. But now you got me thinking maybe I should look into that.
Well, I have his information and he does telehealth too. So I did telehealth because he's actually based out of California.
Okay.
And he's very, very, very good. Very good. So good.
Well, and one thing back to sort of what Greta said, and to combine what you're saying, if somebody's worried about the practitioners are going to see not knowing what they're talking about, go interview them. Phone them and set up an appointment. Many will sit down,
right?
Many will sit down and talk to you. You can share what your issues are, what your concerns are. And a lot of times you'll find out they have a lot more training than a regular medical doctor does.
I mean, that's one thing is we go and shop around for everything else. But when it comes to doctors, a lot of people, and I know here, especially in Calgary, we have a shortage of family physicians. So a lot of people are just stuck with the doctor they've had for their parents had.
They don't even have one, and they just
don't even have one
on call,
end up
or whoever's
going to like a walk-in clinic, and they just don't have the right information. And it is just, here's a prescription, try this. I mean, these were the exact words. So I'm talking from my own experience. This is not to put any kind of, anything on anyone, but this is from my own experience. Whenever I went, I have a thyroid condition. Whenever I went and I said, okay, what else can I do? Because there's a reason why my thyroid's not functioning properly, right? What else can I do? I mean, I can only do so many diets. Well, take this and see what happens. Well, I'm not a guinea pig. I don't want to take that. I want to know what else I can do. Well, just take it and see what happens. When a doctor says to you, take it and see what happens, that is not medical advice.
They're throwing spaghetti at the wall to see if it's going to stick.
There's nothing about.
That's why they call it a practice, is because they practice.
They practice on you. So when it feels like that, and it felt like that the moment I had that experience, I went and found another doctor.
Yeah.
And then I continued to go look for another healthcare provider, not necessarily a medical doctor, but I continued to look for someone that would resonate with me. First of all, listen, right? Not like, sorry, I have 5 minutes. You better tell me what to do. What's going on?
Or you get to tell me one thing and one thing only.
Right. So, and it's hard. I know it is hard in especially places like Calgary, where I live, where there is a shortage of doctors. People are kind of just strapped, right? But there's just so much out there that's not.
A lot of our rural communities in Alberta have very few doctors. I know Lac La Biche is, I think there's like, I don't know, 4 doctors here or something right now for a whole large community. So,
and they're tired and they're overrun. And yes, I know their patience is very limited. And maybe that's the one thing that they can do, is just be like, here, take this, see what happens, right?
And here's the deal too. I listened to a chiropractor speak one time at a wellness conference that I went to. And he said something really wise. And I maybe have talked about this before on our podcast, but he said, don't be angry at your doctor, at your physician. He said, they're not taught to make you well. They are taught to prescribe, look at your symptoms, figure out what's wrong with you, and then prescribe a pharmaceutical to treat your symptoms. That is what they are taught now.
Or refer you to somewhere else.
Or refer you to specialists that'll do a deeper dive into your symptoms.
I'm not sure if
They're
this
not
is,
taught how to figure out what caused you to have those symptoms. He said they don't even teach that anymore.
No.
So don't be mad at your physician. And it never occurred to me until I listened to that, you guys, that they were not taught that. They're just
well,
not.
I don't know if this is the same, but when I first started seeing my naturopath, she told me that a regular GP gets 4 hours of nutritional training in their entire 8 or 10 years of training. So that's why a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, food has nothing to do with it. You can eat what you want.
Right.
It may have changed now. This was about 10, 12 years ago, but
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. But you know what, ladies, we could talk a long time on this, and
Totally.
we're just about at the 45-minute mark now, so 40-minute mark. So I think we will definitely wrap this up. But you know what, you guys, stay tuned. I have a feeling that we're going to be talking a little bit more about natural health and just some different avenues that we can take with that. So
Yes.
with that, we're going to leave you guys, and join us next week. And remember, we rise together. Well, that's a wrap for this episode. We are so grateful you joined us as we discuss our experiences on our life's paths. Our vision, no matter where you are in your life path, is to add value to your life by sharing ours. You can find more incredible resources in our We Rise Together Facebook group. We'll leave the link posted in the show notes at the bottom. And until next time, we appreciate you, and remember, we rise together.